Hello and welcome to a new podcast. This time I would like to share a story about how to balance yourself Ayurveda style. In this podcast, I will be talking more about Ayurveda. And if you enjoy Ayurveda and would like to learn more, then I would love to invite you to the webinar I will be hosting early November, which will be about Ayurveda and yoga therapy and how that can help you to bring more balance and health and well-being to your life. For now, I will share this story about bringing balance with Ayurveda through using the gunas, and everything from an Ayurvedic point of view, everything in a material world consists of qualities, and these qualities are called gunas in Ayurveda. And these gunas are used to bring back balance. So in Ayurveda, it is all about balance. We strengthen our Agni, the digestive fire. We remove the Ama, the stuff that clogs the system. And we try to bring back balance when we're out of it. But how do we do that? What does that all mean, balance? It sounds logical because, of course, we want balance. But where do we start? And how do you know that something is out of balance? And then how do you get it back? And it's probably a lot more straightforward than you might be thinking, because Ayurveda is kind of like that. It's not rocket science in the end. So as I said, per Ayurveda, everything in the material world can be described by the different qualities it has. In Ayurveda land, these different qualities are called the gunas, and these gunas are mainly paired in opposites. And several examples you may be familiar with, which are hard and soft, heavy and light, dry and oily, warm and cold, big and subtle, stable or mobile, sharp and dull, and there are many more. And the way we work with these opposites is that like increases like and opposites balance. And what we mean by that is that if you feel cold and you eat an ice cream or take a cold shower, you're going to feel colder because like increases like. And if you feel cold and you drink a cup of ginger tea or you take a warm shower, you'll feel warmer because opposites balance. So yes, it's that simple. And you can do that with anything really. So if you feel tired, you rest. If your food or your skin is dry, you can add some oil. When you burn yourself, you put on some aloe or something else that is cooling on it. The key in Ayurveda is that you need to learn to practice your attention. And on top of that, with foods, it can be a bit more of a study because all the foods have their properties. And I mean, obviously, a spicy pepper is heating on the body. And I believe that most will understand that cucumber is cooling to the body. And all foods have their properties. And these properties can also change with preparation or the form they are in. So, for example, fresh ginger is much more heating than powdered ginger. So then it depends on your constitution or on how you do which ginger, which form of ginger would be more appropriate for your body. And that is something that Ayurveda takes into account. So the practice is paying attention to how you feel and the effect that you notice when you do something. For example, on a hot day when you feel hot, do you go for a run at midday and eat a spicy meal? Or do you go swimming in the ocean and stay in the shade and have some cooked rice with veggies and beans or chicken? So how would these options make you feel? And what would be a choice to bring you more health, balance, and make you feel good? So on a hot day, would you increase the heat or would you balance it out with coolness and food-wise with hot food or food that is easier to digest? So then this also connects to your Agni, to the digestive fire. So if your Agni is strong, you'll be able to digest more difficult foods. And if it's weak, you'll be better off eating simpler cooked meals with digestive spices so that your Agni and your body can strengthen. And for example, cooked meals are easier to digest, meaning that they are lighter, and light is a guna, they're lighter for the system. And raw food, for example, is much more difficult to digest and thus is heavier. So you need to have a stronger Agni to be able to digest it. And even so, you might feel heavier afterwards, even though sometimes like raw foods are like, but that's light and it's summer and it's easier to digest, but it's Ayurvedically it's not. And also the foods with many ingredients, so if you have like a big pot with many different things in it, or like a raw salad with like 20 ingredients, they'll be more difficult to digest than rice with chicken and 2 veggies, because it's just simpler. Your Agni will be able to digest it better. And probably, as I'm sharing all this knowledge, you are already applying Ayurvedic principles intuitively, because Ayurveda works quite intuitively. So there is a lot to think about, or there's a lot to it if you think about it, but if you don't think about it too much, there is already a lot that you might be doing. And if you already feel good, then this might not be on the top of your list to start to dive into the whole Ayurveda story. But if you're more like me, dealing with an autoimmune condition or with anything else that is challenging health-wise, Ayurveda might be a really beautiful thing to explore, to be able to support yourself, to feel better and stronger, and to maybe even be able to reduce medication. But this would be something that you'd have to do in accordance with your medical doctor, or if you have an Ayurvedic doctor, always consult them if you wanna change anything. But Ayurveda can definitely be a very good thing to do to support your health and well-being. So for me personally, it has been a very empowering journey. I've been able to incorporate Ayurveda into my lifestyle and see my kidney condition stabilize more. So my autoimmune condition affects my kidneys. I have to say that it's not always easy, also because you can't unknow what you know, and sometimes there's cravings, and those aren't helpful. And Ayurvedically, every action has a reaction. So what I choose will influence how I feel. So stuffing my face with too much chocolate will never create an I felt so good after that kind of result. Maybe mentally because I indulged in my craving, but physically, usually it doesn't. And my teacher always says, like, oh, here's another episode of Ayurveda Ruins Everything. And she has that from a friend of hers. And in a way, there is a truth to that, because you know you shouldn't eat or do something, but you do it anyway. And then also with that, taking into account that we always do the best we can with the knowledge we have. So that's something to take into account. If you don't know it, you do the best you can with what you have. And then once you know stuff, you can change and you can make better choices. So there's no point in beating yourself up too much over choices you've made in the past or are making it in the moment, if that's the best you can in this moment. It's also all about capacity you have, which also relates to yoga therapy. And if there's very little capacity at the moment because you're not feeling well, then you might not be able to make the best choices because you just don't have the capacity to do so. So when it comes to food, and also actually to actions, in my experience, it better really be worth it. Otherwise, it's kind of an average experience that needs quite some recovery to balance out again. And that might just not be worth it at all. So for example, I know that pizza for me is challenging to digest, which it is actually for most people, because of the combination of food that is a pizza. But if your Agni is strong, then it doesn't have to be a problem. And also for me, it doesn't mean that I never eat pizza, but when I do make sure that it's a really good one, just to take as much out of it as I can. I tend to feel a bit heavy and bloated afterwards, depending on my day, and especially if I eat it late in the evening. It might be so that I wake up in a sweat because my body needs to really fire up my system to be able to digest it all. But I know that that is what it is. And I know that this can happen. And the next day, I'll just scrape off the leftover ama from my tongue and I will have a day of cooked rice and veggies or something more simple to just bring back balance again. So it's not about not doing anything that you know might not be the best choice, but with the knowledge that you have or that you're gaining, also being able to recover from it. So sometimes you can make bad choices. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you know how to recover. It's like if you go to bed late one night, the next day you'll rest a bit more, or the day after, just so that you can enjoy what's happening in a moment, but you can also, when you get the consequence of it, recover yourself. And for a lot of people, even an easier example is alcohol. I don't really drink that anymore, just like maybe once or twice a year, a little bit. Also because I'm a kidney patient, but also because I know that if I do, the recovery doesn't tend to really weigh up to the experience when I drink. So then you can think like, wow, Ayurveda really does ruin everything. You can't even have a drink. But does it really ruin everything? So like, how great is your actual experience? Not what you think of your experience, because sometimes we can imagine an amazing experience, but how is it actually really? How do you feel as you're doing it and afterwards? And what kind of reaction does that create within yourself? So is that pizza or that alcohol or whatever you're taking or doing or experiencing, is that really worth it? And sometimes it is a wholehearted yes, it's amazing and it's fun, and the consequences you'll take them the next day because the experience was worth it. But sometimes it isn't. So it's kind of like choosing the battles, like with everything in life. And the more knowledge you have, the more aware you can be of the choices you make. And so, yeah, sometimes that creates that whole pickle of you can't unknow what you know, which sometimes ignorance is bliss. But in the end, I kind of feel like, but is it really? Because the empowerment I'm experiencing because of choices I can make, whether they're good or bad, but then also the the choices I can make towards the consequences of the previous choices, that does make it worthwhile for me. So if you've enjoyed this story and if you'd like to learn more about Ayurveda, like I said, this autumn I will share a free Ayurveda and yoga therapy webinar. Here I will share what it is all about with some useful tips of how to bring more balance and more health to your body. And there will also be time to ask questions that you might have regarding these topics. So you can sign up through the links in the description. And I hope to see you there. And if you've enjoyed this story, this podcast, and enjoyed the content that I share, please give it a like or subscribe to my channel. Share it if you know that someone could benefit from it, and yeah, keep following what I do. And then I wish you all a very beautiful day, and hopefully see you on the next episode or in the next video or in the next event that I will be sharing. See you.